I try to step out of comfort zones. So the thing that I'm scared of, I'm pushing myself or get pushed, because ultimately this is where growth happens. You need to, in the first 3 seconds, hammer the benefit and your brand, because 80% of the people probably won't watch more than 3 seconds.
Hello and welcome, dear LEITWOLF Podcast listener. It is a great pleasure to have you on this podcast again today. And it's a particularly great pleasure today because I have here for you and with me a terrific guest who I promise will share some great insights, some great learnings about two worlds of leadership. The world of leading brands and the world of leading people. It's my pleasure to welcome you here on the podcast show. Welcome, dear Eliah Werner.
Thank you.
And Eliah worked for 8 years for Procter Gamble, the company where we both grew up in and did our first years, you 8, I did 16. A company where you were leading brands like Oral-B and Pampers, and you were working in Geneva for Europe, and you also worked in Schwalbach, close to Frankfurt, for the DACH local market. Now you are Vice President Brand for SIXT. I think it's the person Eliah and it's the topic we are talking about that makes this episode a special one. Because it's about leading brands. And whenever I think about strong brands, then they have one thing in common. Strong brands are rarely built by compromise. They do not try to please everyone, but they define their target and then they try to excite this target, even if it's not pleasant or not comfortable for some people in the market. So strong brands never built on compromise. They emerge when people like Eliah and brands like SIXT have courage, take a stand, take a position, and explore new paths. And at the same time, consistently create value for customers and for their business, which I think is a high art to master. And when I then zoom out and just think about brands that match these criteria, then there are only few, and SIXT is one of them. Because since years, your advertising, your communication, your marketing strikes a chord with me. And therefore, a great pleasure to have you on the call. I'm really looking forward to exploring your path and your view on brand leadership and leadership in general. Let's start with passion. When did you first realize your passion for brands?
I think it was in a time where I did not really think about brands. It was in my school and swimming time. I was a swimmer when I was 6 or 7 until 18, 19. So competition swimming. And once a year there was this competition where all teams swam together. And you need to understand, Stefan, until 16, I was 164. So I was always the smallest. Mm-hmm. Between 16 and 18, I grew a lot to 184 now. But I always needed to find ways to be part and to stand out. And creativity was for me always something I could be in my element, be it like building with Lego blocks or drawing. And for every of those once in a year competition, we seek to have T-shirts with slogans on it. And I came up with ideas like from Snickers to swimmers. And for me, it was a way to be part of it and also to see that creativity and something that brings value is welcome and that I could be part of the team even more. And what I found is during those competition, everybody wore the same T-shirt then, and it kind of like internally and externally had an impact. One, internally, we felt more like a team because we had kind of like our swimming uniform. And externally, okay, those guys from Schwäbisch Gmünd, they had always those funny and cool T-shirts. And this was, I think, for me, the first time where I felt building a brand or building identity can have an impact. And that was kind of like in my private time. Professionally, of course, first time when I joined P&G. Back then as a junior assistant brand manager. So really like the first job. And my journey at P&G was always very, I would say, different versus the others, because I started at multi-brand campaigns where we had the Thank You Mom campaign. But also when I joined, P&G had the challenge to win with female consumers above 50.
Yeah.
Ariel communicated on TV stain removal for the T-shirts of your child. Mm-hmm. So they kind of like missed the message towards the empty nesters, where it was a bit more about like how can you care more for your precious dress.
Yeah.
So my task was to build a platform from scratch. And I thankfully had the chance back then with Christina Bulle, my first major manager, there was a pilot in Italy, but we needed to build it for Germany, Austria, Switzerland. And it was amazing because I could build a magazine for a couple of million people in Germany, a website, the entire brand, photo shootings, campaigns. So the end-to-end, this Victoria program coming to life. And this was the first time where I saw, okay, you kind of like this little architect and you build this beautiful image, and every element needs to fit to each other. And that was, I think, the first time where I really, really saw the opportunity and the big upside of working on brands.
Cool. And building on this, what to you as a marketing expert defines a truly great brand?
A truly great brand for me is a brand that manages, if people think about a need, you are number one. If you think about a need today, why do I say today? You see, when you think about the entire AI world, Claude managed within a couple of months to build, when you think about business and AI solutions, number one position. Really, really strong brands on the other side, of course, are consistently clear with their positioning to kind of like build this specific point in people's mind. Brands grow via two ways: physical availability. Am I possible to buy that product, to get that service? Mental availability. Am I top of mind when people think about that category? To quote Byron Sharp here, how brands grow. And this is, I think, that holds true for brands across the world.
Yeah, amazing. Now, SIXT is a very strong brand. And I'd like to shed some light on two particular aspects of how you create it together with your team and with your owners. The first one has to do with courage. Whenever I perceive your brand, I perceive it as bold, slightly provocative, and a bit surprising. A little bit also with a twinkle in its eye. I've seen your brand many times. Sometimes I text you with a little screenshot, Eliah. The last time I met it, just a moderate twinkle in the eye on Cologne Airport, where I was leaving a plane and I look at the gate next to us and I see this long gate exit and it's SIXT on the exit. And it says in German, raus, so out on the one hand side, and rein on the other side, which means in English, but also is directly communicating the river Rhine in German. And
or tomato soup in that direction,
yeah.
Or tomato juice in the right direction of the airplane,
yeah.
And pepper in the direction of SIXT.
I love it. It's a great campaign. So I always see surprising executions of your brand. And you sometimes go much further in terms of risk and courage. Now, I've been a marketing leader in Procter Gamble, in T-Mobile, in SAB Miller, a beer company. And while in my companies, there often was quite some courage, my perception, rightly or wrongly, is you seem to have a slightly higher openness to taking risk. So how do you perceive the topic of courage in terms of marketing in SIXT?
I believe that a brand is always the reflection of a culture. And when I had the chance to join SIXT 4 years ago, I was amazed by the brand, amazed by the entrepreneurship of this company. It's now in the 4th generation of a family-run business. And I think the taking risks was always a part of how to build that company. Risk, but always a smart risk to build it, to understand, okay, what do I need to do to leverage the amount of resources financially or team-wise to have the biggest impact. And it's a reflection of the entrepreneurial spirit of the SIXT family, which kind of like reflects in the entire culture. So it's not something that was specifically done to be, well, it was in the end done to be different, to stand out versus the competition and to increase the impact what you have in the end.
Yeah. And the other aspect I'd like to shed some light on, which I think is also a similarity in the worlds of leading brands and leading people, is the word balance, right? And I think in the area of marketing and brand leadership, one of the balances that you need to strike every single time you create a campaign is the balance between creative freedom and commercial discipline. So how do you strike that balance at SIXT?
I think it's not a balance, it's with creativity you increase the commercial impact. Why do I say that? Because in today's world, where you get bombarded by messages across different social media platforms, out of home, radio, TV, whatever, you need to find a creative way to stand out with your key message. If people walk around in the airport, you can have a billboard, yes, but SIXT found a way to always creatively transform the key message. There was a car hanging from the sky with a clue attached. The headline was, "Attention, only attached with cheap glue, so we can offer you the best rental prices." So yes, there could have been a billboard, but I think Erich SIXT and also with Jeremy von Matt and the entire team that worked on those executions always understood you need to be different to stand out. And I think it's in this book, Momentum, from Jeremy von Matt and Holger Jung. If you don't say it in a different way, you can just not say it. And they always lived by that principle to stand out. And that's why, in the end, creative freedom is only the way how we try to increase the commercial impact. Why? Because there is always the key message, amazing car for a great price at SIXT. It's not about only being creative. There's always the key message in the end, you get amazing cars at SIXT.
Yeah. So it's basically you're not even thinking about balance, let alone trade-off. The way I hear you think this is entity. It's one. So you think creative freedom and commercial discipline in one thought. Triggers me a little now because it reminds me of an experience I had when I was the chief marketing officer of T-Mobile, where I think I was surrounded also by some people who didn't immediately see the commercial power of our creative executions. Have you ever had to educate people around you to see that entity as being one?
Fortunately not, because it's kind of like built in how the SIXT brand and business grew, like doubling the revenue in the last 10 years. Amazing company, amazing entrepreneurial spirit, building new businesses and going into new markets. But it was always kind of like I would say, hygiene factor. If we do marketing, we do it different. And a funny thing is, seldomly we say, we cannot do that. it's more often we should not do it because it's too boring.
Wow.
So that's a bit the spirit that lives also from my two bosses, Alexander and Konstantin SIXT.
Yeah. I had that same experience as well when I was at T-Mobile. To the company's credit, it was a great time there. It also pushed creativity. Still, it just triggered me in that regard, and it's great and probably helpful for you that entity of commercial discipline and creative freedom is perceived naturally and seamlessly in your company. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, a great example also how you need to always be top of trends, what's happening. Back then you paid 80,000 euros for a print ad reaching 400,000 people. Now via social media and a relevant idea that is shared with very, very little budget, you can reach 3-4 million people. Why? Because now the currency is shareability, is something relevant to be shared. And the more you're relevant as a brand nowadays, the more you kind of like understand your customer, your communities, what is relevant for them right now. The closer you're there, the more likely you are part of that community and shared. There's this book from Jonah Berg called Contagious, where he talks about how ideas are shared. Mm-hmm. And one of the examples, and you touch base on Apple, why they did the AirPods or headphones back then in white, social currency, you see other people walking around with white, or why they specifically decided against user experience to put the Apple logo on top of the MacBook, not usability. Okay, it looks in the right way. Only via you kind of like unfold the laptop, and then people see the Apple logo on the right side. Mm-hmm. So it kind of like drives, okay, all hipsters that are in coffee places working, they use Apple. So it was in the right way. And for ideas, it's the same thing. Once people share your content, and our approach is we want to make people laugh, but ultimately sell our product. So it's always kind of like you jump on major trends, but ultimately, by the way, you get amazing cars, rental cars at SIXT. And people start sharing this, and you're kind of like perceived as the funny and cool and trendy guy because they keep on sending those. And that's the currency of nowadays. You need to be relevant with your brand, but not only relevant, also have a benefit to communicate and be part of that.
Yeah, so it's basically relevance and shareability, and relevance in social currency, which you seem to be using as assessment filters on the creative idea. Yeah. When you get an idea presented first time, how do you assess that shareability?
The first thing is, does it move me? Like emotion, like it comes from the word emotion. Does it move something in me? If yes, like gut-wise, then you can start exploring why does it move me? And then ultimately you also look, okay, is there a brand fit? Only because it's funny doesn't mean we at SIXT will do it. Is there a brand fit between the relevancy and our product offering? And then we say, yes, we go ahead with it. Because ultimately we're here to drive mental availability, to bring our brand and people's mind when they think about rental. So every idea, every asset, everything we look at, we assess based on that. And of course, at P&G, you learn like the hand. Is it simple? Does it connect emotionally? Does it drive holistic activations? All that stuff also goes into it. But simple, does it move us? And yeah, actually, you can say, does it move you? And will it move the business? And these two things might come together, hopefully.
Does it move you and does it move the business? I like that clarity and simplicity.
Just came now.
Let's talk about people. I mean, the company that you and I grew up in, Procter Gamble, stands on two legs: brands and people. And I know from our collaboration that started about 3 years ago, when I was standing in a train, not sitting in a car. I was standing in the train, and having this first conversation with you, listening to you, and I think we had booked half an hour, we talked much more, which was great. I immediately felt that you care about brands and you care about people, about humans. So when you describe why leadership matters to you and what your own typical leadership style is, how would you describe it? Why does it matter? And how do you lead?
I think leadership is not dependent on age or hierarchy. That's for me very, very important. And I think this is also how you grow up at P&G, like the leadership and ownership you give to people. That's why I get excited by people who lead, that are able to envision a place we want to go and excite the people to get there. And there's this like 5 E's of leadership: envision, express, excite, enable, and execute. And based on that, you can define or kind of like analyze yourself as well. Envision, does that person help me or is able to paint a picture in the future? Where do we want to go, like the promised land? Express, are you able to articulate how we get there? Excite, does it excite me, or can he or she excite teams to build it and go there? Enable, is it possible that via the leadership style you enable your bosses to take decisions or to get support, or your teams around yourself to enable to do their work effectively, to have impact, to go there? And of course, ultimately, execution is the only thing that a consumer sees. Execute. And based on that, I think that's strong leadership. And everybody has like stronger areas in each of those pillars.
Yeah. One area I'd like to particularly highlight in your 5E model, so envision, express, excite, enable, execute, is the second one, which is express. I personally sometimes tended to underestimate the importance of communication. And our cooperation partner, Gerlinde Kühr, warm regards, Gerlinde, who has been working with me 28 years ago in Procter Gamble and is working with us now since years again, keeps on reminding me that communication and leadership are twins, inseparable twins. Using Václavic's thinking, you cannot not communicate, right? So if you stand in a meeting and there is a position expressed and people see that you perceive it, you cannot not communicate. So that's the element that in your definition of leadership resonates a lot with me. So be aware that leading and communicating are inseparably intertwined. Let's talk about the way you lead. What is your typical and your preferred leadership style, Eliah?
Yeah, let's go back to this express, and I think that's because it opens up some topics in my mind, and it's the most trickiest and most challenging one. Why? As you said, you communicate via, of course, your voice, what you say, but also like how you show up. That's also... I have a big challenge because in my mind, things get fastly clear where I want to go, and maybe not articulate clearly enough to teams what needs to be done and where do we, because for me it's already clear, okay, this is where we go, this is what we do. So specifically, like, communication is an ongoing challenge to, okay, what do you tell whom? How do you excite those people? What is, and there's this one saying, be clear is kind, be unclear is unkind. And I think this is a tremendous job, always on self-reflecting and in diving into those different people. Okay, what does this one person need, situational leadership, to help us or to get excited about where we want to go? And there's probably a failure like a staple of failures I did in my time and will do in the future. When it comes to articulating a clear strategy, I always try to be clear what are the key principles and the key areas we want to grow in. How do I lead? I think I'm a very emotional leader. I'm the third boy, so I have two older brothers.
Yeah.
They kind of like boxed away all the rules, so I don't, in general, like rules. I like freedom.
How much older than you are
3 and 5 years.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't like rules. That's why I also like my freedom. The challenge I have now is that I give maybe too fast people freedom that maybe need in the first place rather guidance. But on the other side, that's a bit, I'm more like an empowering, enabling freedom leader. So I need to push myself to understand, okay, which guidance, how far or how close do I need to be there? But I think my mind spins very fastly visions where I want to go. I get excited about communicating about them, talking about them, specifically also visualizing them.
Yeah.
So I love design. I think that's the way how I lead. So envisioning where I want to go, what is kind of like let's say the promised land where we want to go. Mm-hmm. And then step by step enabling those people to get there. And also the expectations I have from team members are a bit like the same one, that you show up and have those leadership and ownership for your baby, independently how long you're in the company. And sometimes that works easily. Sometimes you need to work harder on it. But that's the leader I want to be, that kind of like I give the opportunity to grow, because reflecting on my journey, there were always leaders who gave me that opportunity to grow, to gave me kind of like this space and also pushed me outside my comfort zone. And this is in the end where growth, I think, happens. Enabling people to step out the comfort zone, but still protecting them and giving them the support they need. And sometimes you might directly see the upside of it. Sometimes you might see it only in hindsight, that this was the right thing to do, although it hurt back then.
Yeah.
And that's for me the way how I want to be a leader, that when people reflect back, there was a massive personal and professional growth, which I am very grateful for, because I received that from my managers.
Yeah, awesome. It resonates a lot with me. A couple of connecting points. The current leader of the HR function of Procter Gamble DACH, Jochen Brenner, and warm regards here to Jochen, who I'm working for and working with again in 2 weeks in Schwalbach. In a recent conversation shared with me that when he was in the United States for a broadening assignment, he took the effort to go back into Procter Gamble's library. And he found a document dated 1840.
Wow.
3 years after founding. The company was founded in 1837 by William Procter and James Gamble.
Yeah.
And just 3 years later, this document that apparently is still in original form in the library, from a content perspective, said the following message. We don't hire people to just be productive. We hire those people who want to grow others and themselves, unquote. Isn't it fascinating that that thought from 180 plus years ago still informs you and informs me?
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of the culture of P&G, that people were always, of course, selected in that way, but also then nurtured in that way to think about that, to enable younger talents to grow, but give the right support system to grow in. And that's why I'm for those 8 years very, very thankful. And I like a lot as well because he took the time to go back in time. And I think this is specifically, we talked about brands, but also about leadership and self-development. Only if you understand who you are, you know where you want to go. So taking that time and also reflecting on who am I, what do I want, and why am I like this, I think is very, very key. And at P&G, the people always give freedom to those people and also the development. However, of course, P&G is also a specific system where you need to work in. And I also had my challenges at P&G over 8 years, and kind of like wake-up calls that didn't tell me P&G is not the right place for you, Eliah, but rather reflecting who you are and who do you want to be and how do you find your way. And I think that's one of the key things. And these were kind of like 3 simple moments. The first one was after I was in a meeting. I was junior assistant brand manager, and there was our GM in there, and I took the freedom to make a joke, which which I like a lot. I like seeing life on the bright side.
Yeah, me too.
Yes. And after that, my manager shared with me a feedback which kind of like puzzled me in the first place. She said, Eliah, for the future, think about who you want to be. Do you want to be the business owner who understands his business and runs his business? Or do you want to be the guy who makes the joke? And back then I woke up and felt like, shit, do I need to be like super serious now in today's world? That was the first time like where okay, what does that mean? And it took a couple of months until I kind of like found myself. I don't think it's or it can be both.
Sure.
The second moment, and we talked about creativity, was when a VP brand told me, Eliah, we are not creatives. The agencies are the creatives. And me as a creative person who loved to be in creative elements, I was shocked because I didn't see creativity only via creating TV copies or key visuals, but also about creative ways to solve problems. This was also, I was not aligned with it. And I felt also there is a different way. And the third moment was when I was in Geneva and presented the plans for Pampers pants, so the pull-up Pampers. And I had orange font on a white background. And my current manager and my future manager was there, and the band SIXT, so GM, Pampers Europe, Surma told me, great presentation, great blend, but for the future, please don't write orange on a white background. And sometimes my filter is not that fast. I told her, thanks for the feedback. However, I decided to do it that you don't read our typos on it. And my current manager and future manager were like, oh my God. But what happened 2 weeks after that, Surma invited me to be part of the OGSM preparation, the most important meeting in a year where you kind of like talk about the objective, about the strategy. And for me, I could be every week with her and learn from her. How does she think about building a brand, the business? What is the story she wants to tell? So being myself enabled me maybe in the first second to that my managers thought, oh my God, but ultimately enabled me a new path to learn. And that's why at P&G, I learned it's always about nurture and nature. Nature, I like to be creative. That's where in my element. Nurture, I had 8 years of the brand building school, learning all the systems, putting all those models in my mind. And I'm very thankful for that, because ultimately, although there were like feedbacks which I was not aligned to, and I tried to find my way, there were also people like my former boss, Christina Bulle, who saw the skill set and the passion I had for creative solutions, gave me the opportunity. And that's ultimately also very strong leadership, that you think about where the passion and the skills of those people and where do you put them. And that was my journey at P&G, which also shaped me a lot for the future.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing this. Resonates a lot and triggers me a bit. It just makes me aware again of the fact that it depends on specific times. It depends a bit on specific people you work with. Because interestingly, I had the exact reverse experience in P&G when I was just promoted to assistant brand manager on 2 brands that are no longer in P&G's portfolio. The brands are called Sanso and Rai, laundry, light duty detergents. And the man who did the opposite of what you perceived was my boss twice. His name is Michael Bernhörster. Regards here, dear Michael, who had an impact on me. And the first time he challenged me on the exact opposite. He said, Stefan, you're not demonstrating enough creativity yet. I want to see more, right? And the second time, just 2 years later, was just one single question. He made me see the power of strategy, the power of leadership, all in one moment, which literally changed my life, my path in P&G, and in fact, my life. Yeah. So I think it really makes me aware again about the influence you can have on the people around you. No pressure. We should all make mistakes. But what you do and what you say shapes people. Yeah? Very, very interesting and resonating story.
So how do you approach now topics? Does it sometimes pop up in your mind, I need to be more creative? Or how did that kind of like shape you for the rest of your time?
It did put the question into my mind, is this different enough? Is this new enough? Is this provocative enough? So I owe that to that moment with Michael. He was the first one challenging my creativity. So he put it into my hardware up here, and it now does pop up once in a while. When a plan or an execution is just streamlined and ticks all boxes, but risks to be boring, then I tend to stop and scrap it, and that is probably partly due to that moment with Michael Bernhörster, who was the first one in my life to challenge my creativity in P&G. Yeah. I would still say I could probably still today be more courageous. I sometimes am. For example, when I'm sharing in live programs, when I'm sharing why this program is called LEITWOLF Leadership, right? Many people know the strength of these animals. Few people know the enormous social and emotional competence of these animals. Because a pack is a family. It's like you with your wife and your son. It's a family. And I knew upfront intuitively, we decided in 10 minutes, my wife Tanya and I, we decided in literally 10 minutes in 2009 how this brand will be called. I said, look, this is the symbol. I like people who can make something complex extremely simple, and that simple thing exciting. You talked about Apple. Yeah? I think that was a strike of genius to call this brand Apple, right? And your executions of white AirPods, of a well-placed logo on the Mac, are two of many illustrations how they simplify this complex thing called digital communication. They simplify it and then make that simple thing called Apple exciting with every single touch point. Yeah, so it's part of it, and I intuitively felt after 10 minutes, that's it, we go. Accepting polarization. We have had comments on LinkedIn, why are you doing this? It's an animal that kills. True, it's true. But unlike humans, it only kills when it needs to for survival. We humans kill for much more than we need. And what people often don't know is this social and emotional aspect. Yeah, right. So 8 years ago, Eliah, I ran a 3 days LEITWOLF live program with 12 top leaders of a 7,000 people organization. It's coincidence that it's about the same size as SIXT, right? And I knew that in Lüneburger Heide, just 20 kilometers away, there was a cage with 3 young wolves, 3 years old, siblings, who had grown up in the wild and had been in this for a few months. So I just wanted to see them and observe them. And I go in and spend that day and observe for about 1.5 hours. And after those 1.5 hours, I just spontaneously asked the lady, her name is Tanya Ascani. Greetings to Tanya if you hear this now. And I encourage you to go there. It's a wonderful group of animals if you're interested in them. I just asked her, Mrs. Ascani, do you think I can go inside this cage? And she said, you know, Stefan, many times in the past, I said no. Because they were typically men, to assault your gender, typically men coming here and rattling the cage and shouting at those animals, right? Come on over here, wolves, right? I would never, ever allow those men into the cage because they signal stress. But you're not signaling stress at all. You signal curiosity. You signal trust. You signal calmness. If you are courageous enough, if you dare to go. And then I said, okay, then please open the cage. She opened the cage. I went in and I immediately sat down. There was a wooden bench, low, because I did not want to signal superiority or dominance. Yeah. I wanted to signal eye level, right? And I also decided not to decide anything and not to say anything and in fact not to do anything. So they came around. The first one stayed 10 meters away and looked at me from a distance, and his eyes said, you know what, you're just fucking boring. And moved on. The second one came 20 centimeters to my hand, sniffed from 20 centimeters and looked at me to say, okay, I checked you, but you are boring, and moved. But the third one came to me and was where you are now, Eliah, about that distance, on eye level. 2 minutes that felt like 2 years. I didn't measure my pulse or my blood pressure, but I must have had a pulse north of 200. And I was stressed because hardly ever do I encounter wolves that were grown in the wild on that proximity. But I also knew that he would be as scared as I am, because wolves have only 2 natural enemies. Other wolf packs and humans like me. And for about 2 minutes, we had silent, uninterrupted eye contact. And after those 2 moments, the wolf lowered his ear, then lowered his head, came forward towards me, came up in between my legs, came up here and licked square through my face.
It's a welcoming sign.
Exactly.
You're a part of the wolf pack.
Here we go. And I'm getting goosebumps all over my body again, because that moment taught me that not only humans mirror human behavior, but so do wolves, right? I tried to signal respect. I tried to signal trust and got rewarded big time by getting trust and respect back to me and being adopted into this family called a wolf's pack. So although that moment was 9 years after the decision, it was 9 years later, it just confirmed our decision. Why this symbol is a strong symbol to communicate good leadership.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
lovely story.
Thank you for teasing this out of me. Unplanned. Unplanned, but it's related to the power of brands and to the power of people. Yeah. And that is a nice segue to the next topic I'd like to shed some light on. And you are doing both par excellence. You're leading brands and you're leading people. You're leading an organization. And the question I would like to hear your perspective on is, the relationship between brand leadership and corporate leadership, company leadership, and the culture that you need in the back or in the front around you, the human culture you need to be able to create a strong brand. How do you perceive that in SIXT?
As said, I think a brand is always the reflection of a culture, meaning you need to build that culture that can live up to the brand, and vice versa, the brand that can kind of like live up to the culture. What we try a lot is, and I think this is also built from the entrepreneurial spirit of the company and also the family, to go into risk, to have a vision, to have a growth mindset where you want to go. And this is the culture we want to have and need to have for success in business. So how we try to build a, let's say, brand organization, and you said I lead humans par excellence, my team would probably argue differently. But ultimately, it's finding the right people to have that courage, to nurture that courage, to lead and own their projects, first one. Second one, spend time with the brand. We have like a 900-page advertising book of the last decades. You need to feel and understand the brand. Advertising, brand building changed. Back then, a TV copy, print, a lot of media behind it, you won. Now it's with all the different channels, you produce probably 1 million times more assets versus 20 years ago. Meaning you need to have people that feel and understand the brand, because by every asset, you need to decide, is it building my brand or hurting my brand? And there's a beautiful example of Mike Eisner. He was the CEO of Disney. He said at Disney, they think about that everyone at Disney works on that canvas. Everybody has a brush in their hand and is an artist. Every stroke of the brush either helps or hurts this painting. And that's what we massively live by, that everything what we do consistently and with a very clear positioning, we want to build SIXT independently, which country we operate in. And these kind of like are the two things we're looking at the culture, because ultimately human, as you said, brands and humans is how brands are built in the end.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much. Eliah, you so far worked for 2 strong companies. You worked for Procter Gamble and you're now working for SIXT. One of the things that shapes us most and that also influences our success a lot is the culture. So how would you compare the strength, but also the differences between Procter Gamble and SIXT?
Yeah, maybe first the similarities. And that's why I also moved to SIXT ultimately. Both P&G and SIXT have this eagerness to win. You want to be the best in the market, this mindset of winning. And the second one is brands are number one priority. Even at SIXT, our CFO, COO, CBO, everyone, when they present, they talk about the power of our brand.
Wow.
And that ultimately excited me back then, moving to SIXT, where they also have a strong similarity that you want to lead and own and win. That there is really like, you have this one topic and you want to push it forward. At P&G, it's kind of like the culture, how you grow up from junior assistant brand manager up. At SIXT, it's the entrepreneurial spirit that was the foundation, how this company and brand grew in the last 10 years, doubled the revenue. Mr. Erich SIXT, who took over in the 60s until 2021, built with Regine SIXT, the company from 200 rental cars to 200,000 rental cars.
What?
So
a 1,000-fold increase.
Yes.
Boy, that's impressive.
And that's via like the bold way of entrepreneurship. Where the difference is? P&G is, I would say, a running machine and system. So you kind of like come in as a junior assistant brand manager and you are in one of the teams, then you get into another ones. The systems are most of the times preformed and you learn to lead in the system. In a company that grows so massively and a brand like SIXT, the challenge is sometimes a bit more how you build new systems running, how you build new organizations. And for me, it's a massive challenge because I've learned to operate and lead within a system. And now, like, for example, social media, we've built in the last 4 years from scratch. What kind of people you need, what kind of systems you need. This is purely new. And also how you transform a brand into the modern age. SIXT was always very driven by offline marketing, out of home, airport, print. As the brand and the entire business digitized a lot, we also digitized a lot the brand itself. So we kind of like needed to build it. And this is the major difference where we try to have continuously the same similarities, continuing to build young people into leaders. The best thing, specifically also when you think about social media, the stuff that is happening there that has an impact and is relevant, comes from the teams that work there. Not from me or not from my managers. Like building the right people and nurturing them into leaders who have a vision for the brand and really own their topic. And this is where ultimately a big similarity is. And this is why I loved working at P&G, and now I love the brand SIXT and the culture there.
Yeah, awesome. Great. On brand, off brand. How do you assess whether something is on brand or off brand for SIXT?
When, like 4 years ago, we started to modernize the brand because SIXT is growing majorly across the globe. A lot of people work on the brand, so we wanted to articulate the brand that everybody who works in the brand, be it internally or also externally, understands the brand. We looked in the last decades and looked what kind of principles helped to build that, I would say, very iconic brand. And we defined 3 simple things. Bold. If we do something, we make it to stand out. It needs to hit your face when you walk by. Fun. It needs to drive emotions. It needs to move you. And the last one is premium. Over 60% of cars are premium cars. We're a premium provider. We have a premium positioning. It needs to be a embedded part of our communication. So if we look at on-brand or off-brand, we look at it, is it fun, bold, and premium? If it ticks the boxes, yes. Sometimes things are a bit higher, lower, but this is how we assess ultimately. And until now, it worked well. I think the more a brand works and grows globally, you need to really articulate what the brand stands for and need to educate people. As said earlier, once you produce so many assets, you need to have a clear understanding what your brand is, because ultimately everything what you do either helps or hurts your brand.
Yeah.
And earlier we said also it needs to move. It needs to move you, and it needs to help to move the business. Yeah. And this is, I would say, if at least like a couple of those assets hit this, we go ahead with it.
As you just said, the world of marketing and the whole world changed as a result of digitization. Mm-hmm. And yes, I'm ready to admit that I grew up, Ilya, I grew up in the world you described before, which when it was all about an inspiring, mind-opening, we called it advertising idea. Mm. So the idea was important then as it is now. And then it was about executing that idea in TV and in print and putting a lot of money behind it. Now, you just said with digitization, and we'll come to talk about another topic that will probably unfold another exponential multiplication yet once more. What are the few things you pay particular attention to when you digitize assets, right? I just realized the brand, it's bold, fun, premium. When you smell, we have a great idea, and you multiply it millions of times into millions of assets. What are the key things that you, as the leader of the brand, apply in assessing and in deciding how to successfully digitize, how to make an idea go viral? How do you do that?
The first step is always the brand. What do you want to and need to stand for to build that one thing in people's mind? For us, amazing cars for a great price when it comes to rental. How ideas come to life fundamentally changed. Agencies need to rethink. Entire concepts are different now. You need to win the first 3 seconds, the so-called hook. So ideally, you kind of like find ways to hook people in the attention economy, that they start engaging with your story. And on organic channels, TikTok or Instagram, it's probably more a hook where you try to dive into community realities, community insights, what is relevant to them. For example, in the last couple of years, we dove now into gaming. So we try to understand what's relevant to them, dove really into those communities. Ultimately, we've built an entire game where people can play our cars in our fleet in exciting words digitally, and people love it. So it's really about when you want to win in digital, the principles have not changed. The consumer is the boss. But you need to take time to dive into it. At P&G, I traveled to Russia, Turkey, UK, and as a 28-year-old, I watched moms changing diapers.
Yeah.
Being with the customer, with the consumer, really, because then you build something, also comes back to feeling your brand. Everything what you do then kind of like goes back. Does your gut say yes or no? So this is the first one, diving into it. Second one, understanding the principles of digital advertising or digital building a brand. Organic works a bit differently versus paid. Organic, you dive more into it, you tell stories, and your brand is just kind of like the platform, but is always part. When it comes to digital advertising, be it on YouTube or also on Meta, where you have only a couple of, you need to, in the first 3 seconds, hammer the benefit and your brand, because 80% of the people probably won't watch more than 3 seconds. So it fundamentally changed, meaning also when you talk with agencies or when you develop ideas and concepts, you need to have that in mind. And this is where the difference is between strong creatives and strong brand leaders and weak ones that don't reflect the platform. And this is also when you look back how brand building changed. Back then it was the brand building fundamentals, why, who, what, how, and then maybe the one platform. But now it evolved even more stronger in community and customers, brand building fundamentals, the platforms, and now even AI. What does that mean? How do you bring to life an idea on YouTube reflecting the platform principles of ABCD, attention, brand, connection, and direction in the first 3, 4, 5 seconds? So everything needs to come together. Then AI, where are the opportunities, but also where are the boundaries? You have 3 seconds of character consistency when you create videos. So how do you directly, when you think about concepts, integrate those principles, those frameworks which AI enables you today into the concepts? And that's, I think, the amazing time of marketing, that there is so much stuff coming together, and ultimately you need to bring it together.
On that notion of AI, which I think is the force that is now launching yet another exponential disruptive growth of many, many things. Two questions. The first one is, how are you using AI in your business today?
Everywhere. So it comes really from your strategy, where all your customer data is, who do you want to work with, everything is fueled, organized, analyzed by AI, and not only having dashboards, but directly action and recommendations. I think this is also, then when it comes to creation, we think about where and how we can and should use AI, that ultimately it has a positive impact when it arrives at the customer and not like, oh, shitty AI, but kind of like still excites. And the third one is in automation. When you think about asset automation, you have one and want to have 10 different banners for it. And then ultimately also the impact. What is the impact? How do you analyze? And ultimately the impact fuels the brand strategy again. So because I have the fuel, the entire value chain, the final impact I have had with this asset will fuel again the brand strategy. Which target group, which asset resonated best with which target group? Do I need to invest more money behind that? So it kind of like it's in every step integrated. And sometimes it works easier, sometimes not. But it's kind of like a new player on your team that helps you to hopefully create more value, better customer insights, better creatives, better activation.
I love it. We also adopted AI into our team. I used the German word KI and I called her Katja. Katja immer froh. And I love your idea because we'll have a team meeting coming up in July in Hamburg, a live one, where I will now steal your idea, if I may, just have an empty chair and say Katja. Katja is the new team member on the table all the time. Now, let's shed some light on another duality, balance, coexistence, you will define this, between AI and HI, so human intelligence. This relationship between artificial intelligence and humans, right? What I observe in my part of the world is, one, some typically young people. I just spent 3 days with 60 tech entrepreneurs in a tech startup ecosystem called Evoa, right? They are between 19, so even younger than you are, Eliah, and in their early 30s. They have a vision. Some are just before founding. Some already have founded, have raised their first 5-6 million and their first 20 people on the bus. But they use AI as seamlessly and as naturally as you do. And they might even think ahead. While on the other hand, I also observe people who are scared by AI, who do interpret AI as a threat. They don't know how to use it. They are scared it might just cannibalize and remove their current job. So how do you see that dilemma, that relationship with AI and humans?
And actually, we spoke on the phone when I realized I made a tremendous mistake in leadership a couple of weeks ago. I'm very digital savvy, so I like to test a lot of stuff. I like to test things even before we use it at work. Yeah. Image creation, video creation, how to leverage that. And what I did wrong in this entire transformation, that I expected too much of people to be there where I am, and did not enough stepping back. Okay, where are they? And you once told me leadership is not bringing the people where you are, but going there where the people are.
True.
And after that, we started like doing dedicated sessions, trainings, etc. And that's also kind of like you need to step away how you tick versus other ticks. And this helped me a lot. And interestingly, after we did this and we enabled, and SIXT is an amazing place for that because we get equipped with the latest, hottest AI stuff. I think this is where we are miles ahead of other companies where they need to do all that stuff, but everything flows and comes together. And I'm tremendously grateful for that, how we can leverage all those systems. It's the right approach to go ahead. And I need to tell one thing because I was so amazed. We had a leadership session and Mr. Erich Sixt, who is already above 80, he presented a case, a vibe coded app he coded.
What?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, back then he taught himself already like how to code, but now that I think reflects the culture we have at SIXT, like independently who you are, which impact you have on the business. He's not a CEO anymore, but this showed you need to engage with that stuff, do that. We have dedicated sessions for it. But kind of like going back to our team development, having AI coffees and insight sessions, you saw how the people picked it up. And there was some people were like 2 steps ahead and said, yeah, I love it. Sometimes we're more a bit scared. But once we kind of like found different formats where they could learn and also share their progress individually in smaller groups, bigger groups, we found a way, and also thankfully people jumped on it. They loved it. They even shared like that they're also thankful for the opportunity to learn it because it's not given when you look at other organizations. And then step by step we found ways to leverage it, and that was again a aha moment for me of a leadership mistake I did. Learned now for the next AI wave. I know better.
Yeah.
But it's also fun, and I'm very proud to see what the teams now do, like fully independent AI workflows. It's by now I'm amazed what stuff comes out there, and it's I think it's a great reflection of the culture at SIXT and also the opportunities senior leadership the entire company gives everyone. It's an exciting time.
What a great moment, and compliments to Erich Sixt that with his experience, he learned to code, he learned to do vibe-coded applications. That's amazing. I mean, that shows an environment where AI is not only tolerated, but role modeled by the most experienced people in the organization.
Yeah, and like also my 2 bosses, they're so savvy. It's like scary how savvy they are in that world. But I do believe that in other organizations there might be, okay, you guys need to know AI, and they do. It's not relevant anymore for me. And like really walking that talk is really, really key. And for me, it's also, I want to understand, and via that, hopefully also can guide and work with partners better. When I think about campaigns we bring to life or other activations, if I talk to agencies and feel they're advanced or less advanced, I try to find the right people who to talk to, because ultimately also as an entrepreneur, and I see myself as an entrepreneur in that company, I want to invest money as best as possible. And if I feel that partners are not on that level or want more money than it actually costs, this is also something we get nurtured by, to really think about where and how the money is invested. So also from a entrepreneurial spirit, it's key that you are top aware. What are the trends? How are things done? And last year, when we created a dedicated campaign with AI, which won now a couple of awards, there were 2 things. One, it was a further development of the brand. And in the early 2000s, there was in Munich airport parking situation a 4-meter long green cucumber. And there was a headline above it, what is the car of the competition doing here? So kind of like always a gentle reference to our lovely competitors. What did we do last year? I wanted to create something truly, purely AI, but it needed to be on brand and live up to the opportunities that AI offered us. So Jung von Matt came up, we had a briefing session where we specifically looked what are currently the opportunities and barriers. As already said, like, okay, back then it was last year in July, 3 seconds character consistency. So you needed to think about concepts that reflect those principles, that after every 3 seconds you have a new cut in the storytelling. We also didn't want to make the mistakes like other brands did, that kind of like they wanted to communicate in a real way, used AI, and people had 6 hands and all that stuff. So the briefing was either you don't see at all it's AI, or it cannot be anything else than AI. That's kind of like, and coming from gently talking about our competitors and us, there was this idea that Jung von Matt found Trustpilot reviews about our competition that read like horror stories. Needed to walk through a dungeon, like etc., all that stuff. So we found 3 different ones, and with AI, within 2 months, we created really Hollywood level ads, 60 seconds, that brought to life those horror reviews about our competition. Amazing. YouTube globally activated, 75% view-through rate. The brand was lifted. That was purely possible with AI. Like producing that in the real world would have cost millions and would have taken a year. But we specifically looked into it. What are the principles? How do we want to activate? And based on that, it's an amazing video. I need to share all 3 with you.
Please.
And
for my entertainment.
Yeah, for your entertainment, exactly. Renting with others is horror. Better rent with SIXT, and that's the opportunity. And also like the amazing world of AI. It fundamentally goes back what you mentioned earlier. The idea matters. Everybody can create now and produce and activate. But the difference is a strong and unique idea that comes to life in an exciting way. And that's the beauty of the time now, that way different ideas to bring to life are possible nowadays.
Awesome. This whole conversation makes it visible to me and to everyone who sees it now, how consciously you're developing yourself. It's amazing to listen to your path all the way from a 14-year-old swimmer to your time in P&G, to your time in SIXT now, and how you learn and how you develop yourself. Now, share with us, what are you doing in order to develop yourself further as a leader?
The foundation for me is family. So spending a lot of time with my family, never forgetting who I am and who am I. And there's also another quote from Goethe. The 2 things parents should give their kids is roots and wings. So that's for me very important. How do I develop as a leader? I try to step out of comfort zones. So the thing that I'm scared of, I'm pushing myself or get pushed, because ultimately this is where growth happens. I love reading, so kind of like reading helped me to program my mind into certain structures, certain ways how to cope with situations. I want to grow as a leader to grow leaders. That's for me also understanding, okay, what do I need to do to help other people grow? There's nothing more amazing if there's like something out there which is celebrated by people and it's coming from someone in my team. That's like, I get so excited about that. I love, of course, to be involved, but it's even better if they just did it. Because I think that's key to success in nowadays. Do and let do. And this is how I kind of like on the job try to evolve. And let's say the harder and more uncomfortable way of growing as a leader is asking for feedback. So all our people first talks we have quarterly. It's always the same structure. People share about themselves, what they learned, achievements, where they struggle with, where I can help. And then there is always the feedback to me. What do I do well, but specifically what can I do better? And people are very vocal. So there's a lot of stuff to learn from.
Great compliment to you, because you create openness.
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes it's more feedback I receive versus I give. But yeah, that's, I think, like where you try to understand your blind spots. And there are so many mistakes I did in the last years on leadership. There are a few things I hopefully do well to let the people grow. But only via listening and being open to get that feedback, you can understand, okay, is that feedback relevant and I need to act on it? Is it just a personal opinion, but everything I want to hear, and then I decide myself whether to tackle it or not. Yeah. And I think that's the most important one, because ultimately you are in your system, you run, and you cannot always be super self-aware what impact you have. And as you said earlier, you always communicate, even if you don't communicate. So how do you show up? And Dale Coleman wrote this book, in Emotional Intelligence. Yeah. And where I found very interesting, because emotional intelligence is not like I feel you. It's more like those 4 quadrants. 1, you are in a situation and you have a group. The first one is self-reflected. How do I feel and why do I feel like that? The second one is moderating myself to adapt, higher or lower. And then the second 2 ones are, why is this group feeling like this? And the last one, what do I need to do to adapt the atmosphere, to make it more that in the end the impact of the team is higher. And that's what I found very interesting, and probably I forget most of the times to really do that. Sometimes you do it by yourself because it's a tense situation. I make a joke and it's easier to find your way with it. But this is, I think, a top level of leadership, when you feel that people read the room, read the people, and ultimately try to involve the people and find a win-win situation. And this is where I think some people make that very relaxed, and you don't even realize it. Sometimes understand, sometimes people disregard that. But that's the true power, how you can move people and find decisions to have a bigger impact with your project.
I love it. Have you experienced people or situations or moments where someone helped someone else to be able to feel, perceive, and live emotional intelligence on a higher level than before?
Can you elaborate a bit more?
Some people I know would probably say about themselves, I feel like I'm pretty good in intellectual intelligence, in thinking, but maybe I'm a bit underdeveloped in emotional intelligence. I just thought about a man running a big country in the world right now who I think is very underdeveloped on this side. And it's a difficult question I'm raising. And maybe the answer is no, maybe you have not perceived anyone, but I'd like to learn from you, like the audience would like to learn from you. Have you ever seen a person, have you experienced a moment where someone helped someone else to be more emotionally intelligent? Building on the book from Daniel Coleman. I'm reflecting myself as I'm asking the question. And I have 2 particular people in mind who I'm working with right now very closely, who would benefit from the answer. How can you at all develop emotional intelligence in others?
I might, like, what pops in my mind now are situations where you feel in a huge crowd, where maybe new leaders are in and have potentially a too high, I don't say too high respect, but they are kind of like intimidated by hierarchy, where people help them to still shine, to give them maybe an intro or a platform they felt comfortable talking about. Because that specific person read the room, okay, she right now is intimidated by the hierarchy of those higher management people, and that person helps her or him to understand, okay, she led that, she achieved that, she achieved this entire campaign, so kind of like building already credibility for her, to have a better impact in the meeting. This is maybe something where I saw at many meetings, or also what I try to learn and also do, because this is kind of like where growth happens. Reading the room, okay, what kind of vibe is in here, and still that person who presents has the confidence to deliver. This is maybe, I don't have a specific point in my mind, but this direction could go in that.
I agree, and I like the example a lot. Thanks for sharing. Now, towards closing the conversation, I have two more things for you. 2 sets of questions. The first one is 5 quick questions with the ask to also give me quick answers, and then a final one to close the call. So let's go. What is the best piece of advice you ever received?
I think it's from my dad, and he said it, you just need to talk to people. And that opened so many doors for my life. And ultimately also independently who you meet, be it a CEO or someone who cleans up, everybody deserves the same respect. And the upside of it, I respect everyone in the same level, so I don't feel intimidated by hierarchy. I still treat them in the same way, not disrespectful, but in the same way. And this helps me also to speak more open about my ideas and my beliefs.
Yeah, thank you. Which leadership quality is most important to you?
Honesty.
What is your personal go-to tool when things become stressful?
Sports, going running, sauna opens my mind.
Which book, podcast, or quote recently inspired you?
Recent book, I reread The Alchemist, where I loved the journey of having the dreams and being in that moment, and once you're in that moment, making the best. Which book shaped me probably most was The Obstacle Becomes the Way by Ryan Holiday. He transforms the ancient Stoicism into modernity. And that kind of like also opened up the entire world from Marcus Aurelius of meditation. So diving into the Stoicism, accepting what you cannot change and focusing on what you can change. And that helped me a lot, guiding my thinking and action.
And if you could change one thing about the world of work tomorrow, what would it be?
Probably a bit being okay and open, talking about dedication and also hard work. Not our work, but hard work. That it's okay to talk about, I worked on this on the weekend, I love it, I want to go into it. This is right now still a sensitive topic, and I would love that like really dedication and putting the right hours into it are more appreciated and celebrated. This is something I believe our society and also economy would benefit from.
Yeah. Big story, big topic. Thank you. Yeah. So there was thousands of people on the call, and I would like you to close it with either a message to them or with a question you would like to leave them with.
You have probably many big dogs in your audience, and it's maybe a question or an ask. Think about when you did the last time, or when you will in the future give younger talents more freedom, more trust, more opportunities to help to shape the world, and let them make mistakes. And catch them again in growing, because I think this is what I received a lot in my journey, this is where I grew, and this is what I want to pass on. And I think in many organizations, there can be a bit more of that.
Awesome. So a question that any leader more junior than you, more experienced than you, has a chance now to think about. And maybe one final question to you that popped up right now. How much time do you spend reflecting?
I started in COVID times meditation.
Yeah.
So I try to sit every day between 5 and 10 minutes. Before I had a child, it was in the morning. Now it's more like in the evening times. So meditation is a kind of way of reflecting, but specifically also what I'm thankful for. Like I try to, if you focus on the good will grow. And this is what I try to do a lot, focusing more on things I'm very happy and grateful for, even in tougher times. So most of the times daily.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, dear Eliah. So a couple of things I take away from this as key takeaways. The first one, how you define the brand SIXT. Bold, fun, premium. The second one I take away is your core of leadership, honesty. And the last one is how you reflect. You take the time, you found your method, it includes meditation. You invest the time into thinking, which too many people, more and more people right now feel they don't have the time anymore, which I think with all due respect is nonsense. We all have the same amount of time. We have 24 hours a day. The question is what we invested into and what we don't. I love the way how you found your way to reflect. And in concluding, in the name of all those people listening and watching, it's been a true pleasure, Eliah, to have you on this show and to listen to you, to learn from you, to learn with you. It's an amazing path you have behind you, and I'm sure there is an even more amazing path for you ahead. Thank you very much, dear Eliah.
Thanks for taking the time, because it's also your time, and you helped me a lot also in the last years to grow, to come from P&G into a new culture that takes work and also reflection, and the talks we had always helped me. So thanks a lot for that.
My pleasure. See you soon. Thank you, Eliah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.